The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Now, let's join your host, three-time National Wrestling Writer and Broadcaster of the Year, Jason Bryant.
And welcome to Season 4. It's Episode 55, the first show of the new season here of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. My name is Jason Bryant. I'll be your host all year long. Joining us on our first show of Season 4 is Tony Robie, head wrestling coach of your Virginia Tech Wrestling Hokies. And starting your first season officially as the head coach, you picked up the head coaching position in interim role, then you were named the head coach. Now you get to start brand new. This is your team, Coach. How's it feel starting out?
It's exciting. There's no question. I feel like I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. So to get things kicked off here and finally start competing is a welcome change. For me, at least, it's an opportunity to start focusing a little bit more on the wrestling aspect of this job and the responsibilities that go along with it, and the guys, and starting to develop our guys and try to figure out, where they need to improve based on the evaluation process. And I think watching them compete and then sitting down and evaluating them and having them evaluate themselves is truly the best way to see what areas they need to improve in and get better. And as a staff, that's, I think, exciting for us. It's when you're just in the room and you're, obviously it's incredibly important what they bring to practice every day, but it's tough competing against your teammates every day in there. So excited to go out there and watch them wrestle against a really tough Stanford team, and then at the Hokie Open this weekend as well. And we have Jared Hott going at the All-Star match against the number 1 ranked Colin Moore from Ohio State. So a lot of exciting things going on this weekend, and we're ready to get it kicked off.
And we're talking about Season 4 kicking things off. This program was one of the flagship or early programs on the Mat Talk Podcast Network, in addition to the Short Time Wrestling Podcast. Previous coach, Coach Dresser, jumped on board with me right away when I was starting this project. When it came time for Season 4, it's okay. We got a new boss calling the shots. Why did you elect to continue inside Virginia Tech Wrestling here into the 4th season?
Well, I think, number one, that our fans really enjoy it. And I think, when we looked at the numbers in terms of downloads and people that were listening to this, and the feedback that I've gotten from our fans and our alums and our donors over the course of the last several months, I mean, it's something that I think is well worth doing, and it's obviously we place a big value on it, and you're a big part of that. It's I think you're as good as anybody in the business in terms of putting these things together, asking the right questions, and making sure this thing flows smoothly and people get to hear what they want to hear. So it was really a no-brainer for us. I mean, it was something that we wanted to continue to do and continue to have this relationship with you, and it's been really beneficial for our program and for our fans. And like I said, it was a no-brainer.
We'll get to the schedule here in a bit. First of all, thank you also as well for being basically kind of the flagship program of how this network should be structured, because now we're seeing that team down in Raleigh has jumped on board. They're doing their own thing, but they're also part of the network, and some other ACC schools are also rumbling about getting on the network. But you guys were first when it comes to the ACC, and 2 of the first programs that started it were in my home state of Virginia. So I appreciate the continued support. Now, moving towards the competition, as the first dual meet of the year coming Saturday at Castle against Stanford, then the Hokie Open up the road in Roanoke. But before that, we did have some competition at the Wrestle-Offs. And when we look at results, I mean, what were your initial thoughts? There's some new faces in there, and there's some veterans in there, and some freshmen that gave some of those veteran faces some tough looks.
Yeah, I thought it was good. Again, it brings a different level of intensity. I think when you compete out in front of people, you have a singlet on, you're on the castle floor. So I think we had 13. There was a total of 24 or 12 matches, 24 wrestlers that competed, and I think a total of 13 of those guys had never wrestled on the castle floor before. So we had several new faces in the lineup, and we had several guys, 5 that will be wrestling against Stanford that have never haven't at least competed consistently in a Virginia Tech singlet. So really didn't know what to expect, and was pretty pleased with a lot of the efforts that I saw out there, both from guys that we kind of have expectations for, and we've seen in the lineup over the course of the last several years, and then some of the new guys that were true freshmen and guys that have kind of been backups in the past. So overall, was pretty happy with it. I mean, there's obviously always areas that I feel like we can improve upon, and I think some guys just getting their weight under control, and I think the more you get down to weight, the more you make weight on the 1 hour weigh-in, the more discipline you get with it. You shrink your body. You start to understand, exactly what the best process is and system is for you in terms of, where you need to be weight-wise throughout the course of the week, and then your warm-up, your post-weigh-in meal, the whole 9 yards. So it was a nice trial run for our guys as well, and we had been kind of progressing down to this. We had went +10, +8, +6, +4, +2, and then scratch weight at our wrestle off. So it wasn't anything new to them, and I think it's been pretty beneficial for those guys, and I think it'll benefit them come this weekend, having made scratch weight and going through this process once already, especially with the guys that haven't really been out there a whole lot and have never really wrestled on a 1 hour weigh. And a lot of the guys that are redshirt freshmen that competed in open tournaments last year, those are all 2 hour weigh-ins, and more often than not, it's 3 or 4 hours before you actually step out there on the mat after you weigh in. So it'll be new for a lot of guys.
Not going to necessarily go bout by bout here, just highlight some key points from the wrestle-offs. I want to start out right at 125 pounds, Kyle Nordstrom and Joey Prada. Joey suffered an injury that apparently to some looked pretty bad. What's Joey's prognosis, and how's he doing on the recovery process?
Yeah, this is, probably, obviously when you go into this thing, the one thing you don't want is you don't want injuries. That's kind of the thing you're hoping for more than anything. And in Joey's case, unfortunately, he was injured pretty significantly. He tore his ACL and tore his MCL. So he is scheduled for surgery here in the next week or so, and will likely miss the entire season, which is unfortunate because last year he suffered a elbow injury that kept him out the entire season in his first match of the year at the Hokie Open. So Joey's had some pretty bad luck, and I feel badly for him just because he's a great kid. He works really hard, has come a long way since being cleared from the elbow injury and the elbow surgery, which was kind of, almost in July, I believe, before he could wrestle. So it's unfortunate. He's a great kid. He's got a great attitude about it, and he'll do what he needs to do to get back on the mat.
Looking at 57, Brian Blease over BC LaPrade, and then you got McFadden over Mackay Lewis at 65. So there's been some talk that Lewis could be going 57. What are you looking at there with those matchups and how the lineup's going to shake out?
Well, Mackay Lewis is a likely redshirt and going to go 165 this year. I just feel like it's the best thing for him and his development and acclimating to college. And I also just think he's a special kid, and I think a lot of people saw that. And we've been talking about him up here in our wrestling area amongst the coaches and the people who are close to our program for a long time. He's truly a special kid, special athlete. He's got incredible determination and focus, and he wants to win national championships, and he has incredibly high goals. And I just think with a redshirt year under his belt, and I'm not exactly sure what weight class he'll be at next year, but at 165 this year, he's not going to have to cut much weight at all. And we'll be able to focus on just improving in the sport of wrestling, and then allow him to hit the ground running next year. I've just seen such an incredible growth and improvement from him from the time he stepped on campus this summer and started training and working camps and being a part of our program until now. It's kind of scary for me to think how good he's going to get in the next 12 to 17, 18 months before the NCAA tournament in Pittsburgh in 2019. So he'll likely redshirt, but Ryan Blease at 157, and to be quite honest, to me that was a little bit of a toss-up match between him and BC LaPrade, and wasn't exactly sure how that was going to go. And Ryan Blease looked fantastic, looked as good as I've seen him wrestle in his time here at Virginia Tech. He's he's an incredible worker. And he probably sets the tone for our team as far as the amount of work they need to put in. In fact, sometimes he's the guy that needs to dial it back a little bit, and he's been much more receptive to that and been very coachable over the course of the last several months, and then not running himself into the ground and overtraining. And when we have a day off, taking a day off, letting his body rest and recover, because he's got a huge gas tank. He's had a ton of success at the high school level, and technically you come in and you watch the guy drill, and it's phenomenal. So I think if we can continue on that path and keep him big and strong and explosive, we're going to have a pretty good year out of Orion. I'm excited to see what he can do and feel good about that weight class with either him or BC. BC's a really athletic, big, strong guy with a lot of athletic ability. He just needs to continue to improve and make some adjustments. So feel good about 157. Obviously at 165, David McFadden, coming off a redshirt year, has shown a lot of growth and improvement, and has really spent a lot of time working with Coach Molinaro, and I think has improved, especially in the area of his leg attacks, and has gotten a lot better on his feet. So, but yeah, those were definitely two of the marquee matchups Friday night with our inter-squad match.
Now you got Hunter Bolin over Cody Hughes there at 174. One, it's kind of odd to see, no Epperly in the lineup, but we've already been through that in the past. But so when do you pull the trigger on, say, redshirting a freshman and putting a true freshman out there? Is he going to have this decision with Hunter Bolin as well?
Yeah, I think we'll know that maybe before this weekend, or definitely by the end of this weekend, kind of where we're at. I anticipate that Hunter Bolin is going to wrestle this year. But that's not a guarantee 100%. We're still discussing that as a coaching staff and kind of seeing which direction this goes. Hunter's on board for it. He's excited about the opportunity to wrestle. I think Hunter eventually can grow into 184, which would I think after maybe wrestling a year and then perhaps redshirting down the road at some point, could grow into that weight class. And he's really responded to the weight training and has gotten a lot bigger and stronger since he's been here. He's a young-looking kid, so I think he's still got some growing left in him. So that's kind of how I see that playing out. But it's, with the door is certainly nice. Called Cody Hughes in my office and spoke to him yesterday, and that, the in terms of determining our lineup, that situation is, that can change at any point. The door is still open for a lot of guys, and we're going to see who the best guy is when they step out there and compete for us, and that's going to be the guy that's going to be in our lineup for us at the end of the year.
When we're looking at how the upper weights do, also focusing on Andrew Dunn and Jeffrey Allen, Dunn from Pennsylvania, Allen, a very accomplished kid coming out of Virginia, and you got two young kids battling there at what's basically been a weight dominated by upperclassmen. Last year at the NCAA championships, there was only one freshman that qualified at heavyweight for the NCAA championships.
Yeah, Andrew Dunn has done a really nice job over the course of the last 6 months, I would say. Last year, it was a tough year for him. And he was in the room. He came off a gray shirt year and then redshirted last year. And I think, to be quite honest with you, allowing him to have 2 years beyond high school to kind of mature, not only physically, but, mentally, emotionally, and adjust to what it takes to be really good in the commitment level it takes at this at Division I wrestling. It was good for him. I'm not necessarily certain he was ready even a year ago, and he took a lot of beatings from Ty Walls and Jared Hott in the room last year. But he's, we went out to Las Vegas and he didn't have a good tournament at the juniors out there. We kind of sat down and had a heart-to-heart talk and just said, Andrew, this, we need to change some things. We need to do things differently. Your commitment level needs to change. And I've seen a big difference in Andrew Dunn and have been really, really pleased with his progress in a lot of areas since that time. I mean, he's always been a pretty talented guy, was pretty accomplished coming out of high school. But in terms of his day-to-day and what he brings to practice and the effort that he brings has gotten a heck of a lot better. And so I've been real happy with his effort and his commitment. And, I think he's going to do some really good things this year for us. And like I said, I feel a lot better about Andrew Dunn than I did 6 months ago. And that's a credit to Andrew and his ability to respond to some adversity and really, wrestling matters to him. He's got a lot of pride, and he wants to be good, and I think it's shown here over the course of the last couple months.
Moving into the schedule portion, before we get to Stanford, the Hokie Open, the All-Star Classic, I want to remind fans that tickets for the Moss Arts Center duel against Missouri on November 25th, 6 p.m. on sale, $10 in advance, $15 at the door. If they're available, and Tony, you're hoping that tickets aren't available at the door. So Hokiesports.com/wrestling/Moss. Get your tickets $10 in advance. This is Missouri, as the rankings are going to come out sometime shortly after this podcast. But Mizzou will come in ranked number 5 preseason. Virginia Tech ranked 9th. We'll get to Stanford, who's going to be ranked 21st coming in the year. But Mizzou on the stage in the Moss. This is going to be a big deal.
It's a huge deal for a lot of reasons. Obviously, wrestling over at the Moss Arts Center is really unique, really cool, and it's an event that we want to get sold out. I just think that it's kind of our premier marquee matchup of the season for us. I mean, it's on paper, it's the toughest dual meet of the year. There's going to be some incredible matchups that you're going to get to watch. Jared Hodd, who's ranked 2nd in the country, will wrestle Willie Miklas, who I believe is ranked 3rd in the country. There's some other places where we're going to have 2 highly ranked guys going at it. So, we went to their place last year and wrestled in their Arts Center, and it didn't go well for us. It was our only dual meet loss of the year, and they return a really good team. So it's going to be a huge challenge, and we're going to need the support of the Hokie Nation, and we need everybody to get out there, get tickets, get this thing sold out, and show your support to our guys. It's a big deal to get this event sold out and put a lot of people in the stands and make it an awesome environment.
You can also get a private box by calling 540-231-5300. And I can't think of a better way to watch a dual meet from like a box overlooking a mat in a theater. I have not seen this for my own eyes personally. I just think, if you got a chance to get a box, man, go for it.
Yeah, it's to me, it's maybe the most unique, and I don't know if I want to call it the best, but the most unique environment facility in college wrestling. I mean, anybody that's been to an event over there understands what I'm talking about. Anybody who's even really seen photographs of the event, gets a pretty good feel for it. It's great because it's a little bit different. I mean, they sell beer and wine in the lobby, and you can have a drink before you come into the match. So, it definitely brings in a little bit different crowd than we typically get at Castle Coliseum. A lot of people like it, and a lot of people in the athletic department will attend. So I think we've got a couple hundred tickets left to sell. And again, we need to get all of our fans and the Hokie Nation out there. And if you've never been to this event, you got to try to find time to make it happen, because it's something else.
All right, November 4th, Stanford coming in, well coached by Jason Borelli. This guy, he's been a student of coaching his entire life. His dad is the head coach at Central Michigan. And this was a late addition, really, to the schedule. And they're coming out. They're also going to wrestle in the Hokie Open in Roanoke on the 5th. And, explain the dynamic of bringing Stanford in, putting them on the schedule, and that relationship of being able to wrestle a school that gives you a different look and a different feel like Stanford does.
Well, it's just a school that we don't really get to see a lot. They're in Las Vegas typically, and we may see them, in a match or two out there if we're lucky. But I had reached out to Jason, quite a while ago, just to see if this was something that they were interested in, and we're definitely interested in going back out there next year, which would be a great experience for our athletes to get out to California and get on campus out there. It's a pretty special place, pretty cool place.
Yeah, definitely a beautiful campus. Pac-12s were out there last year, and I had a chance to announce it there, and I was just looking around campus, that part of California, just, oh man, it is a place, folks. So, make your tickets for next year on that return trip. But anyway, talk about the trip here now in Castle.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a no-brainer for us. I mean, it gave us another home dual meet. It added another very, very good team to the Hokie Open. So, when Jason called me and said that they could do it, it was, like I said, it was a no-brainer. We jumped on it right away, and it was I think it was great for our fans and our program. And it's a tough team to open up with, especially with so many inexperienced guys in our lineup. I mean, they're very well coached. They've got a number of outstanding individuals. I haven't really looked too much on paper what the dual meet looks like, but I've seen Stanford enough over the course of the last several years and know Jason very well and know that they're going to be prepared and they're going to be ready, and it'll be a heck of a dual meet, and we're going to have to wrestle really, really well to come out on top.
You know, they lost their big gun, Joey McKenna, to Ohio State, but they still return a good core. Gabe Townsell, Connor Schramm, who's been an All-American. Keaton Subject's been in Nationals a couple times, and they've got a mountain of a man at Nathan Butler at heavyweight. So a lot of experience and some strengths where you guys aren't as experienced. So obviously, duels aren't wrestled on paper, but this is one you definitely cannot look past, even though you're going to be ranked higher than them in the opening polls.
Yeah, and I don't think that means a whole heck of a lot. I mean, in terms of what the rankings are at this point in the season, a lot of it's based on what happened last year. So, yeah, there's no question, and I don't think we match up particularly well against them. But again, you know, I mean, this is a great opportunity to see our guys compete, and for me as a coach, I haven't had a chance to I've watched them train, but I'm excited to just see what you know, guys like Kyle Nordstrom are all about. Dennis Gustafson has done; he's going to have his work cut out for him. 133, but he's focused and is dialed in as I've seen him really in his entire career at Virginia Tech. So, you know, I just feel good about the direction of things right now, and I think our guys, I know they're going to go out and compete hard, and that's all we ask them to do, and that's what we're looking for. And I think if we go out and we compete really, really hard and wrestle smart and continue to try to score points the entire match, I think we'll have a positive outcome.
Location-wise, the All-Star Classic is up in Princeton, New Jersey. Jared Haught's competing. So he's going to go Saturday and then go to the All-Star on Sunday?
More than likely.
All right. You know,
more than likely.
It's one of those, like, you know, got a game. I was like, okay. You know, okay, so as a coach here, what is important? Is it the dual meet win the first time out, or is it, you know, being on display at the All-Star Classic? It's got to be kind of a tough way either way to decide.
Yeah, I guess it is. But, you know, at the end of the day, we wouldn't ever put Jared in a position where we felt like we were compromising his chances on Saturday against, you know, obviously a great wrestler in Colin Moore. His resume speaks for itself. But, you know, Jared he's a big part of this team. He's a senior. He only has, you know, limited 7 more opportunities to wrestle on campus here in Blacksburg, and he's a leader of our team. And, you know, and yeah, winning is important. There's no question about that. So, you know, that all of those things we take into consideration. And when we discuss this as a staff and we ultimately make this decision, you know, we factor all those things in there. And like I said, it definitely, you know, we're in this thing to win it. And every time we step out there, you know, we want to get our hand raised, so to speak, as a team. And come out with a W. So all those things are considered, and you know, I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to see Jared out there on Saturday, maybe the first match of the dual meet. So we'll see.
Well, yeah, it depends on where the draw ends up. So as that be as it may. Now, as we look at the Hokie Open and shifting gears up at the Berglund Center in Roanoke, which will host the Division III national championships here in the coming years, but this thing has blown up. It's expected to have over 500 entries, 2 divisions. You know, you're bringing in Stanford. I know Air Force has been out in the past, and teams coming out from the West Coast to get different looks out east. You've got a mix of mostly Division I programs. You're seeing a lot of red shirts. You're seeing some Division II schools also enter the fray. But this thing has kind of taken on a mind of its own the last couple of years. It's gone a couple name changes. It's back to being the Hokie Open after being the Southeast Open. And it's going to be streamed live on Flow. That's where the brackets are on Flow Arena. So you can also go to Hokie, Southeast Open. Where'd the website? It was like HokieOpen.com.
I think it's HokieOpen.com. And just a correction, unfortunately, because of the streaming rights that the ACC holds in relation to Virginia Tech athletic events, it will not be streamed live. So you will be able to follow it on Flow Arena and get updates there. And they have live scoring. But unfortunately, because of contractual agreements that we have with the ACC network, we cannot stream it live.
Okay, because I was under the impression that since it wasn't an on-campus facility, it was kind of open game. But all right, well, live and learn. So chalk that up to preparation on my part. But anyway, they at least have a good dashboard which you can follow live updates. So let's just talk about the depth of this thing and how crucial this tournament is, not just to the competitors, but to the program as a whole, to have a good quality open that saves you a real legitimate travel date. It's just 20 minutes up the road depending on snow and tractor trailer traffic. So Hokie Open in Roanoke, this has been a good thing for the program overall.
No, it has, and something that Coach Dresser started a long time ago, and he did a great job building this thing up to get it to where it is. So it's something we want to continue to do, at least for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I think it's a great event. I mean, we want our guys to wrestle this weekend, and to have an opportunity to have not only your starters wrestle, but all 30 guys on the roster, and give them a chance to go out there and compete and be able to do it basically in your own backyard. To us, it makes a lot of sense. For me as a coach, it's an opportunity because we don't get to, or at least me as the head coach, I don't get to a lot of the open tournaments where our red shirts and our backups are competing at. So it's a great opportunity for me to watch these guys wrestle, a great opportunity for me to evaluate them and see them in a little bit different environment. So yeah, it's been a great thing for our program. It's the tournament has continued to grow, and we've got a lot of help running the event. Larry Hall and Don Squires and all kinds of people behind the scenes do a heck of a lot of work to get this thing up and running and make sure it goes smoothly. And I think that's a big part of why it's grown so big, is that the staff and the support that we have largely through volunteers, they do an incredible job getting this thing going and making sure it runs effectively and efficiently. And I think that's what teams are looking for. They want to go to an event where they're not there, until 9, 10 o'clock at night. They have an opportunity to get out there at 5 or 6, get back home, get 3 to 5 matches in, depending on how their guys do, and get some quality competition that's maybe not ridiculous for this time of the year. So for us, it's a chance for our guys to get matches, and we will have a lot of our starters will be wrestling, which we have not done in the past. I would say the majority of them will compete. So I think our fans, from that standpoint, it'd be a good event to go up and watch, and for them to see our guys compete again and see guys like David McFadden and Andrew Dunn and Ryan Blease and a lot of these guys, and support them.
And we talk about the divisions of freshman, sophomore, and then the open division. Some coaches have been known to put their star freshmen in the open division. Some have gone freshman, sophomore. It depends on the coaching staff and the philosophy. What is your philosophy about where the freshmen go? Whether or not are they ready for the open, or should they just hammer out some wins in the freshman, sophomore and get their feet wet?
I would say the majority of our freshmen and sophomores, at least freshmen, true freshmen, we wrestle in the freshman, sophomore division. We may have one situation where we bump a guy up just to help us determine kind of the lineup, and hopefully he gets an opportunity, we get to evaluate 2 guys competing in the same bracket, and it gets the same competition. But the majority of our guys are going to wrestle in the freshman, sophomore that are in that division. I think it's important in your first college tournament, regardless of how good you were in high school or how good we think you're going to be, to go out there and win a tournament. And not that some of these guys couldn't maybe win the open division, but it's kind of getting your feet wet and getting out there and competing against kids that are more your own age. And we want them to go out and win a tournament. I mean, that's the first step in the process of achieving their goals of becoming All-Americans, national champions, is to take home some hardware, and that's hopefully what we'll accomplish this weekend.
And one thing to remember from a fan's standpoint, to understand how the qualification process works, freshman and sophomore or open, if you're wrestling rostered NCAA Division I competition, that's going to count on your record. So if one of those freshmen gets thrown in the lineups, these freshman, sophomore divisions, actually, they do count.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a good point. So, last year, Dennis Gustafson missed, because he started the year at 141. He missed qualifying for the national tournament by 1 match. He didn't have enough matches at 133 pounds. So I think it is important that these guys get in there. They wrestle at the weight class they're going to be competing at the end of the season, and they get matches against Division I competition that counts towards the NCAA qualification process. And the last thing we want to do is have a situation like that occur again.
Yeah, and of course, all wins against rostered college competition count on your official record. But when we're looking at RPI, it's especially RPI, it's wins against wrestlers in your division, Division I, and your weight class. So that's where you're
Correct.
alluding to with Gus with 141 and 133 last year. Goals for this thing, you said you want everybody to win their first event and whatnot, but what are you trying to do besides the evaluation process and looking at your guys and staff and evaluating your staff too? This is the first collection of all four of you as a staff for a regular season tournament event where you're going to be all over the place. I mean, how important is it for you and staff cohesiveness here?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, kind of getting in the groove here a little bit. But, most of our guys are wrestling unattached, so we can't do a whole lot of coaching. We can only have, I think, 6 guys wrestle attached, which basically means that we can sit in their corner and we can coach them. The majority of them will be unattached. We can kind of stand off to the side and watch them wrestle. But, yeah, anytime we step out there, we want to win. And that's what this is all about. That's why we work so hard and we put so much effort into this thing. So for me, this is what it's all about. I mean, we've been practicing in conditioning and lifting weights, and to me, the fall is perhaps the toughest time of the year because you're just grinding. And once the season starts, you're probably not having quite as many hard practices every week. You're traveling on the weekends. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot more camaraderie with those events. And so, this is why we do this. We do this to compete. And I want to see which guys, when they step out there, have that eye of the tiger and will do whatever's needed to get their hand raised. And those are the kind of guys we want in our program, and guys that love competition and want to go out there and they want to, when they have an opportunity to beat somebody bad and blow the doors off them, that's what they do. So that's really what we're looking for this weekend is I want to see a lot of guys taking home, first place hardware, and I want to see guys competing hard and wrestling for 7 minutes and going out with the philosophy that they're going to take the win and they're going to try to physically dominate their opponent.
One thing that's changed this year with NCAA rules is high school wrestlers are eligible to compete in college opens. Has the Hokie Open been open for high school competitors, or do you know if anybody's going to try to test the waters in that respect?
I don't think we have any high school competitors, but then again, I don't know for sure. I haven't looked at every single guy that's registered, but yeah, the NCAA rules require that it's open to high school kids. So if a high school kid wanted to enter the event, they could enter the event. I don't believe we have any high school kids registered at this time. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so nobody down the road that's at that Christiansburg school that so many Hokies have come from, testing the waters that early. But just wanting to throw that out there because I know there's been some discussion nationally about out here in Minnesota. There's some kids that are fairly highly ranked that are looking to wrestle at like the Daktronics at South Dakota State and the Bison Open at North Dakota State. So I was just curious if things were going that way out east, but seems to be a non-issue at the moment.
Yes, yeah, it hasn't come up. So yeah, I don't think, like I said, I don't know for sure, but it doesn't seem like we have any high school kids. And if we did, that's fine by me.
Now, as we jump ahead on the schedule after the Hokie Open, you do go up to New York for the Northeast Round Robin. It's a Frank Popolizio event. This one a little differently. The Northeast Duels didn't go the dual route last year. They went to this Round Robin format. Well, the Northeast Duels are back on the schedule. You guys have got this the Round Robin, which is just it's more or less mat time oriented and matchup oriented. What do you like about this format and this event that makes you say, all right, let's do this?
Well, it's something that we've never done before. I was considering it, and Frank had touched base with me regarding the event. I talked to Pat Santoro, who participated, the head coach at Lehigh last year, and he really liked it. And, it's almost like a little kids tournament where they pool you. You have a 5-man pool and you're guaranteed 4 matches. And I just like the fact that it's a little bit more controlled and you're allowed to bring 14. I think we're going to bring 14 guys with us. So we'll be some guys that aren't necessarily in the starting lineup against Stanford that will be able to compete in this event. And, it's, to me, getting 3 or 4 matches in one day or one weekend in early November is really kind of what we want to do. I don't want to put my guys in a situation where we're going to wrestle 3 dual meets on Saturday and then turn around the following day and wrestle 4 or 5 more matches and you're getting 7 matches in the weekend. I think for this time of the year, it's a perfect event. It just makes a lot of sense. I think it's a great idea. Everyone that I've spoken to that's participated in this event last year really liked the format. So it made a lot of sense. It fit in to what we were trying to do date-wise. So, when we talked about it as a staff, I think we all agreed that it was a good situation for us, and it allowed us an opportunity to kind of get what we were looking for our second week of competition.
One thing to remember, too, from a spectator and wrestling standpoint is in high school, you see a lot of coaches wanting to get their kids the most mat time as possible. But even in high school, you're like, okay, 7 over a weekend is a bit much. At the Division I level, 7 over a weekend, probably overdoing it.
Yeah, no, I think especially the second week of November or the third week of November, whatever it is. So, yeah, it's definitely that's why I like it. I mean, it just it fits into what we were looking for this time of year, and with our starters wrestling, or the majority of them wrestling at the Hokie Open, matches aren't going to be an issue for us. We've got 16 dates on the schedule, and that doesn't include the Hokie Open. Most of our guys will be wrestling unattached in that event. So, we're looking to, we'll make sure they have enough competition and enough matches by the end of the year to make sure we're good to go in terms of qualifying for the nationals, and we're prepared for the NCAA tournament and have enough mat time. And but like you said, you got to be careful. You really want to make sure that you kind of control it, and I think this event gives us an opportunity to do that.
Next episode, we'll talk about that event a little bit more, recap the Hokie Open, look forward to Chattanooga, Central Michigan, of course, the Moss Arts Duel against Missouri on the 25th of November. Once again, tickets still available. Hokiesports.com/wrestling/Moss. Coach Robie, final thoughts as we start season 4 here.
That's it. We also have Jared Hott wrestling Colin Moore in the NWC All-Star match on Sunday. So I encourage all you Hokie fans to tune in and watch that online. Will be a great event. He's got a great matchup against the number 1 ranked wrestler in the country. It's an opportunity for Jared to hopefully climb into that number 1 ranking. So we're excited about that. But more than anything, just it's time. It's time to get things kicked off. We've been training and wrestling and lifting weights and running for a long, long time. And if you're a competitive guy, which I'm a competitive guy, this is what you do it for. So I'm really excited for Saturday at 1:30 against Stanford. Hopefully we have a great crowd. The football game with Virginia Tech against Miami worked off. That kickoff is, I think, in the evening sometime. So we want to get as many Hokie fans out there as possible in Castle. The admission's free for the match to come out and support us and take a look at a lot of these new guys and, get excited about the future of VT wrestling.
So wait, wrestling, tailgate, football. I can't think of a better weekend than that, or a better day than that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And then wrestling the following day, huh?
Well, yep. Those are all good things. So, Coach Robie, thanks for jumping in and kicking us off for season 4 here at Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling.
All right, Jason. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, man.
Hokie fans, listen to Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling anywhere you go by subscribing on Apple Podcasts. Go to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com/iTunes, or you can get the exclusive Android or iOS apps by going to InsideVirginiaTechWrestling.com.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.